Absolutely. So my name is Sister Harrie Magdalene. I am in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm part of the Convent of the Commonwealth, which is the house that is based in Boston, although we do work all around New England. So we have board positions and mistress positions in the Boston house. And the difference is basically the board is the group of people that are actually listed legally through, I know you're in Canada, so it's different, but here in the US, we have, it's called 501c3 status, which basically means that we are a registered not-for-profit organization with the federal and state IRS. So through that, we have to list board members. So I had been a board member through that for a couple of years. This year I'm not. I decided to just take a step back. Since there's a limited number, I wanted someone else to have an opportunity. And then the mistress positions are not listed with the state. However, they are still official titles within our house that take on different roles. So with that, I was the Mistress of Grants for 2 years. I have held board positions, Secretary and Mistress of Grants. Currently, I am not. I was looking for something that was more religious, a little bit more ecclesiastic sounding. And I was trying to think of something that was a little saucy, a little cheeky, a little scandalous, but not vulgar or inappropriate or disrespectful in any way. Something that would be quotable if I was ever interviewed by someone, something that I could introduce myself with and I wouldn't feel embarrassed, and mostly something that my parents, although they're not religious, if they were to ever meet me, something that wouldn't make them feel like grossed out. So I went back and forth with a couple of different names. I particularly liked Harrie Magdalene just because of her story, how she was misunderstood. She has kind of the reputation of having been a prostitute, but she really wasn't. And I have always kind of seen her as kind of the bad girl in Catholicism and in Christianity. And so I've just always really been intrigued by her. And so I was thinking, how could I somehow incorporate that into my name? Because I've always felt kind of similarly, a little bit misunderstood. I'm not really that bad. I'm usually one of the good ones. And I also wanted something that as soon as people heard it, they'd go, oh yeah, okay. That's cute. A little bit funny. Maybe they'd laugh. Maybe they'd be interested to hear more. So on a side note, I have a beard, as you can tell. And that is something that many sisters actually in the Boston house do have facial hair. And it's something that I wanted to keep. And I also want to incorporate it into my image in some way. So I thought, oh gosh, Harrie Magdalene, it rhymes. And there we are. It was actually pretty easy. It took me a very long time to come up with the name, but then once I actually found it, I was like, done, that's it. There are certain things that I have that I know that I'm confident in, like my legs and being able to wear heels and stuff, and I love that. So I do like to show things off a little bit here and there, but it's actually one thing. I wear a hijab, for example. One of the important parts to me about my appearance is I don't have any bare skin showing generally. So I paint my face. I'm not wearing gloves right now, but I usually will wear gloves. So my face is covered, so like my ears, my natural ears aren't exposed. I even paint under here. My beard goes down to here. So usually from head to toe, I'm completely covered. And so I actually like to exude kind of a confidence without having to show all my skin. Nothing wrong with sisters that do at all. It's just for me, I feel more confident when I'm, covered up in that way. First joined, I was going through a period in my life where I was actually briefly unemployed. I was between jobs. It was only for a couple of months. And so during that time, I was just trying to find something to give me purpose while I wasn't going to work and feeling like I was making a difference. And through a friend, I met some other friends and we got together and they were having a game night at their house and we got chatting, and they had all, two of them at least, had just joined the sisters themselves. And they were talking about it and I was like, wait, what is this? and they were like parading around. They had their veils and their everything else that they were doing, and I was like, this is so weird, but like awesome at the same time, and I'm really interested. Like, tell me everything about this. And so they were talking about it, and I thought like, okay, that sounds cool. But then I learned more about the mission, and that was what really drew me in. I've always been drawn to the performance arts, but one thing that I've always, I don't want to say that I hate about it, but just one thing that's always kind of difficult for me is that, you know, you put so much work and so much work and so much work into a performance or a project or whatever it is, and then you show it off and it's done and that's it, and you move on. And I like things that have a longer impact, where I feel like I'm really making a difference in a different way. Obviously, if you're performing on stage or something like that, you're helping people feel better maybe for the day or the week. But I wanted to do something that was more impactful. So when I learned more about the service aspect of the organization and the work that the sisters do, that to me was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, it's a perfect blend of the two things that I've been looking for, you know, both the performance aspects, the makeup and the craziness and all that, while also being able to actually do good in the community. So again, I work in a school. I'm a counselor by training. So I love listening. I love storytelling. I love learning about people and their backgrounds and what brought them to where they are now. So part of my ministry when I'm out and about at events is I'm always kind of the one that hangs back and kind of scans the room to see like who looks like they're maybe not having the best time today, who looks like they maybe need someone to talk to. And so I am always the one that has those one-on-one conversations. There have actually been many, many times where members of my house have like actually pulled me away and said like, Harrie, there's something happening, we need you, just because I'll get so engrossed in a conversation that I'll never leave. So yeah, an important part of my ministry is definitely kind of being that one that makes sure that everyone feels like they're being heard and seen and listened to. Another part of my ministry is the fundraising part. Having been the Mistress of Grants for 2 years, I love supporting organizations in the area by volunteering with them and helping them with events and things like that. But I mean, you can only do so much with people in their two hands. After a point, you know, they need funding to do the work that they do, to buy the supplies that they need, to give their employees the trainings that they need, those sorts of things. So helping with the fundraising is very meaningful to me, and that's definitely really important. So I'm an empathic person, which I think many sisters are, definitely. But I think that my empathy is also combined with a curiosity. So when I'm, and I kind of explained this before, but when I'm at an event, I can sense if someone is not doing so well, if they're having a bad day, if they need someone to talk to. And then I become curious and I want to know why aren't you having a bad day? Or why are you having a bad day? What's going on? How can I help you? How can we help you? So I'm also very patient, very patient, which again, sometimes I can get caught in these conversations for an hour or more. And I'm just like, tell me everything. Like, tell me about your childhood. For me, the replenishment is constant. And it's not like I can go all out during an event and then I have a moment where I'm like, okay, I'm done. Now I can start to recover. For me, it's a constant cycle. So I know when I'm at an event what my strengths and my limits are. If you can believe it, I'm actually more introverted. So when I'm at events, I know that like I have limits of how much talking I can do, how many people I can meet with in a group. I'm not very good at like walking into a group of people, having a conversation and chatting with them. So I'm just aware of some of those things going into it. And I try to group myself with other sisters that balance out what I have and what I don't have and what they have and don't have. So that actually helps prevent me from feeling completely exhausted and emptied when I get home. So another thing that I also do is I learned kind of the hard way to space out events. In June, when we have Pride Month, it can be very easy to take on a million events. And again, I work in a school, so there's not much going on. So it's easy for me to do 10, 12, 15 events. My first year, I did that, and I was sore and exhausted, and I knew never again. So I've limited myself to how many events I do, as fun as they sound, because I just know that I can't bring my best self to it. Also, just finding other outlets, whether through friends or passions or hobbies that are outside the sisters. I think it can be really easy to get completely sucked in to being a sister. And some people do that, and that's great. And it works for them. And I love that they found that. For me, I need to vary my time and have other things that I do, other passions that I pursue through other outlets, where I can just, take my veil off, take my makeup off, and just do something completely different. I would say serious, probably. I'm not a spiritual person. Like I said, I'm not religious. I mean, the work is meaningful to me on a deeper level, but not on a spiritual or religious level. I'm not sexy. I take pride in my appearance, but I don't paint for sexy. And then silly, I don't know, I've tried. I wish. We have one member, actually you met Sister Lavinia Always, who moved to California recently, or a couple years ago now, I guess. She does this crazy clown makeup, and it's just silly and goofy, and people are so drawn to her. I just don't have that. And I've tried. I can get on stage and talk and do all that, and I'm fine, but I'm still working on that goofiness. That's one thing I wish I had more of. Don't be afraid to experiment. Push yourself. You're gonna mess up. I was always afraid, like, if I do this and it doesn't go so well, they're gonna hate me and I'm not going to elevate. Like, that's not true at all. Challenge yourself, and that's how you really learn what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then once you elevate to fully professed member, that's not the end. And you're still always growing and changing and accepting feedback. And your style will change and your look will change, and that's totally fine.